Evening. Don't know what happened to the intro there. All went a bit tits up. But hey, there we are. Never mind. Right, yeah. DJ, how you doing, my friend?
Yeah, all good, thank you, mate. All good. Just about over last night's exit. I mean, it was. It was always going to be a tall order to claw back a 2-0 deficit, and obviously, I'm disappointed. I was disappointed with the performance from the team. I was disappointed with the tactics of the manager. But I just want, even if we'd have come out of there and we played well, peppered their goal, off the line, hit the post, hit the bar, keep their keepers forced to make loads of saves, and he comes out man of the match, I'll hold my hands up and go, right, the damage was done at the Emirates, we move on. But to go out like that, on literally a whimper like that, was really, really disappointing, Kenny. So Kenny and Jez, it was it was a bad performance all round, and it's deflating really, and it's just summing up the way the club's heading at the moment. So apart from that, mate, really looking forward to tonight to talk. I'm hoping that this will cheer a lot of people up after last night. And these history channels hopefully are becoming very popular. So, we move on, as they say. We move on.
Yeah, we do. We do. Kenny, how you doing, mate? Give us your breakdown.
I think what it is that it's very hard to articulate in the words how I felt yesterday, because we knew that it was going to be a tall order. But what I think we learned yesterday is that we're a team of myths. The Man City result was a myth. Yeah. The real Arsenal actually showed up this season. And what we've learned is that our defence is not as good as we thought it was. We've got no cutting edge whatsoever, even though we do try to create a bit of chances. We haven't got a leader. Let's be honest, we haven't got a leader. And what we're going to find, if we don't freshen up next season, we're going to have a situation where we'll struggle for top four, because that team needs major surgery. So whether we like it or not, that team has probably been together way too long, and it needs freshening up, especially down the left-hand side, up top 100%. Maybe a bit of midfield. We need competition for our defenders, because, let's be honest, what we saw was our defending against a real striker, and they struggled. I had midfield under real pressure, and we got absolutely pummeled. Newcastle absolutely ruined us. It was a 4-0 thrashing. Let's be honest. It wasn't close. It wasn't close.
No. It was a disgrace. I'll tell you what. Somebody, I'll find it and I'll send it to the group chat. Somebody sent me a picture of Arteta today. Picture of him sat in the cockpit of the aeroplane, in the the right side pilot seat, holding the control of the aeroplane, smug smile on his face, right? Off to Dubai. We've just got knocked out of the Carabao Cup, as I call it. And you boys are all off to sunny Dubai for 6 days. Where is your remorse and guilt? And you're sat there with a smug smile. And to sum it up before we move on, I found disgraceful last night, guys. The players, the manager did not go over. Any Arsenal fans who've travelled 7 odd hours to get to St James's Park on a Wednesday night. They take the day off from work, cost them money, travelled up there. Then they've got to travel 7 hours back home if they're driving, because there'll be no trains coming back that time of night. and they didn't even have the decency to walk over and say, thank you for coming to support us. That is an absolute blood disgrace. DJ, come on, mate. You go home and away, Kenny as well, right? How would you have felt? I know how I would have felt if I'd have been there and I've just spent a load of money getting up there, drink, food, all that, yeah, in the freezing bloody cold, because Mama, did a watch along with her last night, said it was absolutely freezing in Newcastle yesterday, as it is most times of the year, but there we go. But they didn't even have the decency to go over and give them a clap, say, sorry guys, sorry, but thank you. How would you felt, mate, if you'd done that?
Well, it just goes to show that when you go to them sort of places up north, like Newcastle, and you travel all that way, 99.9% of those fans are your true Arsenal fans. Because some away games, like if it's a local and around London, you know, you get a bit of a mixed bag. But when you when you go that far, you got your true Arsenal fans. And by not going up and clapping those fans that made the journey and had to sit through an appalling display of football like that, just goes to show that they're not bothered about the real fans. They don't want the likes of us. They want the likes of people going into their shop, buying the merchandise, having selfies, paying extortionate monies on ticket exchanges and all that for tickets, buying alcohol at the ground and food and everything else. They're the fans that get clapped. The true fans don't get clapped. So, you know, it is what it is. But I would say that I don't think our club's the only club. I think it's just the way football is going in general. You know, apart from the smaller clubs, if you like, your Bournemouths and your Brentfords, they're still hanging on to a lot of old school fan base, club mentality. But your big clubs now, they're just businesses. You know, your Levies, the setup at Man United, Man City, Liverpool to some extent possibly may still be hanging on to some traditionalism, but apart from that, that's the way it's going now. But yeah, it hurts as a fan. It hurts, you know. It hurts, and you know, hopefully someone can address it. Someone will get hold of it and go, look, hey. But this is where it comes down to leadership on the field, though. Because I'm telling you now, if the manager had gone off down the tunnel back in the day of Tony Adams and people like that, he would have dragged the players to the away fans.
Yeah, absolutely.
He'd have left the manager going down the tunnel, but then players would have stayed. So this is what I'm saying. There is no leader on the pitch and off it. And this is unfortunately, this is what's happening.
I think you're totally right. I actually... great statement from somebody today, Kenny, talking about getting this manager out. And this guy quite rightly said it. There'd be more of a protest at the Emirates if they closed the Armoury shop.
I said it yesterday.
You said it.
Yeah.
You did. Yeah.
Totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. The thing about it, right, is that people slag Jose Mourinho off and they slag off Jurgen Klopp. But you look at Jose Mourinho, this guy came from Portugal. You always saw him get the Chelsea players and go up to the away fans. 100%. I saw him come up when they come to the Emirates and Highbury. He's always getting them to come to away fans. There was one game when Chelsea had a difficult away game against Blackburn, where he made the Chelsea players throw their shirts into the crowd. Even John Terry, who always keeps his shirts, had to do it. That's a man who gets it. You know what Jurgen Klopp's about. And I think when you talk about players losing a connection with the fans, especially the real fans, go home and away, and I've met loads of them. The problem we have is that the players are connected to the fans, but not the real fans. They're connected to the influencers.
Yeah.
For instance, how many times if you go on Instagram, you'll see the same sort of influencers have a picture of themselves of a player, or you'll see a few influencers who are on various on the main channel, always having videos of themselves hugging the main one of our players. Now that player thinks that people like that represent the football club. They think the influencers represent the football club. So if you want to organise a process, it's very, very hard to mobilise it, because the simple reason is that we have Arsenal fan base is very different. For instance, you're asking someone who's come all the way from maybe India, United States, for their first game in years, you're asking them to go and protest, not to go in. They're not going to do that, because they've saved up all their hard-earned dough to watch the team, and it means so much to them. So they're not going to do it. So you've got to cater for that, and then you've got the influencers who, during the Wenger out campaign, a lot of them were involved. I'd say they were involved in the protest. Well, they weren't. What they did, they used the protest, in my opinion, to enhance their profiles. Not all of them. One guy who was very much on the main channel, he was always part of the protests, and he wasn't the one you thought of. The one, and it's the one that gets criticised more than anyone else because of the way he speaks. He was part of the protest. Wasn't sure about all the others though, who were part. Who obviously my mate Claude was part of the protest, but I can't say that for all of them. No. And if you look at them now, they've now aligned themselves to the Arteta flag, which they're entitled to do. They're entitled to do, but mobilising a protest these days is very hard, and it's not just for Arsenal; it's for every club in London, because we've got so many day trippers who come to the football club, and that is the whole situation itself. In terms of Mikel Arteta, the web is closing in there. You can't get yourself out of that spider web. A lot of people left to the club, with influential positions, so they've left the field alone for Mikel Arteta to basically have control of footballing matters. If you have control of footballing matters, you have to take accountability. 5 years without a trophy is not good enough. And if it gets into the 6th year, and it will get in the 6th year if we don't freshen the team up, then when are we going to look at Mikel Arteta and say, you know what, we're going for a transition. We don't need you to get us through that transition. We need another man. When is someone going to have the balls to do that, to put their nuts on the table? Because Mikel Arteta's not going anywhere if he's getting £50 million a year.
No, because he won't.
He's going to have to make his life very difficult, make the Cronky's life very difficult by not having banners, their voices, having a go after the match, cheering, booing the players afterwards, booing the manager, and then going on Talk Sport or Radio 5 or Sky Sports and demonstrating their views. And they have to be independent from the influencers. They have to be independent from the YouTube owners, because the YouTube owners and the influencers don't want to lose their position in YouTube, and they want to lose their position with the club, albeit very, very, very minor. So it has to be someone who goes week in, week out, home and away, phones up TalkSport and gets him and his mates to get Mikel Arteta out of the club and to get the Cronkies out. That's how we get them out. Don't rely on influencers and people with big platforms, because they got too much to lose and they got a vested interest of the status quo.
Yeah, no, it's big. Yeah, good point, mate.
I'm going to come back to this comment, 3VH. I'm going to star that, and we're going to come back to that. Good. Let's get into this. DJ, here we go.
Yes, my friend.
Let's talk about the strikers. Let's talk about the best of the best.
Before we move on to the strikers that probably most of us all recognise and all aware of, you cannot do a history channel without remembering the two greats. And the reason why I'm going to start with this, I didn't watch them play, obviously. I was only a twinkle in, well, I wasn't even a twinkle in the eye. I don't think my mum and dad even met. But you cannot mention strikers without mentioning the great Cliff Baston and Ted Drake back in the 30s. Now, my granddad has told me so many stories about these guys, and I used to sit up with him, and he used to talk to me about these brilliant strikers and how good they were. And just to put it into some sort of, if they was alive today, especially Cliff Baston, if he was alive today, he would probably be £100 million plus player.
Yeah,
he scored 178 goals at 396 games. Now, a lot of these players played a lot of games, and they played, on pitches that we can only imagine. And they weren't even pitches. You probably get better pitches over the parks nowadays, So, and then Ted Drake, I think he come from like Southampton or something. And again, this guy was phenomenal for the club. He scored 7 goals against Aston Villa, and he as an individual in a one-off match. I think he scored like it was 119. 124 goals for the club. He was the leading goal scorer. He scored 42 goals in his debut season. 42 in his debut season. Just let that sink in.
Yeah.
So, two phenomenal players back in the day, and you can't do a history channel without remembering them two greats. And then we move on to the 70s, and you had the great one of my favourites that I've seen videos of, and I was only a youngster when I first see him, but he was coming to the back end of his career, and it's John Radford.
Yes, 149 goals he scored for Arsenal.
Yeah. Now John Radford. There's a song at the moment that goes around with our academy players. He's one of our own. John Radford was the original one of our own. He started off as a young whippersnapper at Highbury. And his main job, when he was learning his trade, was once the players had all jumped out the bath after a game, his job was to clean it. His job was to clean the bathroom, scrub all the baths, the showers and everything else. And as Jez rightly said, 149 goals. Seven goals against Villa. That was Ted Drake, wasn't it? John Radford was amazing, incredible player.
He was a big lump as well. He wasn't a big man.
He wasn't the biggest striker. You wouldn't look at John Radford and go, wow, how intimidating is he? He had a very low centre of gravity, didn't he, Jez? I mean, you probably see him more than I did, but when I've watched him, he had a very low centre of gravity, and he was quick as well. A lot of people didn't realise, but he was very quick over 10 yards. He had a very, very quick, short burst of pace. As soon as he saw an opening or a gap, he was there within a flash, and very, very underestimated as a striker. And he was one of my favourites. 149 goals, yeah. I mean, but again, I think he had something like 400 odd appearances, didn't he? If I remember rightly, it was well over 400 odd appearances for Arsenal.
Well, he joined in 65, didn't he? 1965, 60, 64, 65 season, I think. I might be a year out on that one.
Yeah.
But I just remember him when the amazing when we won the Intercity Fairs Cup game, and I mean, you know, the 70-71 team, all that, you know, fantastic double winners and everything. But Kenny, you know, bit before your time, I know, but that guy was going to link up with another iconic Arsenal footballer, Charlie George.
Yes, right, yeah.
Charlie. George. And unfortunately, I mean, this was a very I remember this. First game of the season, 70-71, away at Everton. Charlie George scores a goal, breaks his leg in the process when he collided with the Everton goalkeeper. I can't remember.
I think is it Gordon West?
Was it? I can't remember. I don't
know. I think their goalkeeper at the time was Gordon West.
And then he was out until the new year, right? So that was Bertie Mee's plan of him not link. Well, he didn't link up in the end till latter part of the season with John Radford, but that was his plan. But Kenny, just to show the difference in managerial expertise today, right?
Yeah,
right. Charlie George was a bit of a naughty boy because
he was
playing against Glentoran in 69, in September 69, in the Intercities Fairs Cup, which we then went on to win. He got sent off.
Yes.
He got sent off for swearing at a lino. Bertie Mee then dropped him to the reserves and said, "You're going there to learn maturity." That is the difference. We haven't got that today. Anyway, Kenny, the floor is
I think what's happening is that we're at a stage now where you've got to remember that nowadays, you know, DJB made a really great point about, you know, Big Raddy. When Raddy cleaned the boots, he had to clean out the dressing room after the players finished training. That was his job. A lot of players used to have little jobs, apprentices, you know, clean boots. I mean, on my YouTube, there's a lot of reels come off of about Irish players at Arsenal, and one of the Irish players was Niall Quinn, and they were talking about how he used to live with his aunt and uncle in London when he came from Dublin, but he had a few chores as well. He had to clean boots as well. He had some jobs. Now the academy player doesn't have to do that. Because of the safeguarding, you know, and because of mental health issues, but mainly the safeguarding issues, they don't have to do that. So that's why a lot of them don't have discipline. They're not humble. Before they kick the ball, they're already buying their parents' houses, which, respect to that, if I had money, I would do that for my mum as well, God bless her soul. Yeah. But they have a lot of money without actually stepping over the line in the first team. So that's a big difference. But in terms of Charlie George, the best description of Charlie George was something that Bob Wilson said, and it's actually quite true about Charlie George. You're either one or the other with Charlie George. You're either a nice bloke or a bastard with Charlie George. Charlie George is a very, very proud man. You know, if you wound him up, that's it. No second chances. You're out with Charlie. If he liked you, he'll run through brick walls for you. If he didn't like you, that's it. Out of the way. And the way he left the club was basically throwing his toys out of pram, because it was like he felt disrespected by Bertie Mee, didn't get on with him. Injured, needed to move to Derby. And at the time, when he left in 75, Derby were league champions and playing at Champions League. And he was they got to the semi-finals. He's one of their main players. But yeah, with that, when you talk about Charlie George linking up, well, Charlie George got injured. But Big Raddy linked up with another player, a player who gladly we've lost to Alzheimer's disease, Ray Kennedy. Because when you look at the 71 season, the guy who got the most goals that season wasn't actually Big Raddy. It was actually Ray Kennedy. Like 3 players got the double figures. I think 4 of them actually. It was Charlie George, Big Raddy, George Graham, and Ray Kennedy was our top goal scorer. So when you think about Big Raddy, although he was part before me time, by the time I was born, he was already, like I said, part of the sort of transition at Arsenal. He ended up at West Ham. But when I look at strikers, from my point of view, you always look at the Big Raddy because of what he won. Won the Fairs Cup, he won the double. He got to the FA Cup final in '72 when Leeds beat us. And he was part of that team that finished second against Liverpool in '73 when UEFA wouldn't let us play in UEFA Cup the next season because Spurs already qualified and they didn't want teams for the same city. So you look at Big Raddy and you always think you revere him. Well, of course you're going to revere Cliff Bastin because before Ian Wright came along, he held the record. And Ted Drake, not only was he a great player, a great international for England, and he scored that goal, the 7-1 against Aston Villa where he got 5 or 6 goals. That cemented him in Arsenal history. Plus, he was part of the team in the 30s. But the most important thing is that he was a great manager as well. He was the one who won Chelsea the league in '55. He was their manager.
Yeah,
so
he was a legend, wasn't he?
You would have thought that if only we had Ted Drake instead of Billy Wright in 1962. It was Billy Wright, great player for England. He was Bobby Moore before Bobby Moore, got 105 caps, married to the Beverley sisters.
Yeah.
As you all know, but not a very good Arsenal manager. But Arsenal don't really sack managers until we started getting attendances for a game against Leeds United of 4,000. That was the same day Liverpool played Dortmund in the final. But when I think of strikers, obviously you think about Frank Stapleton and his link up with Alan Sunderland, where during that period in the early 80s and the late 70s, it was fantastic. But the one we missed out on, and I cry, was Malcolm McDonald. McDonald, when he actually came from Newcastle at his peak, there was a season when he was a top goal scorer. I remember a game when I was young, we played Birmingham City. He got 3 goals in a 3-3, and Trevor Francis got a hat trick.
Yeah,
that's kind of a history question, but in 1977, 78, he was a prominent player for us. He was our top goal scorer, and then his knees took away, and he was never the same afterwards. And obviously, he went into management. But that's what a player that I really, really think, had he been fit, I think Michael McDonald would have broken Cliff Bastin's record because he had everything: pace, he could hold the ball up,
power.
He loved scoring goals. Goals. Yeah.
One thing I remember getting back to Charlie George, 49 goals I think he got, something like, and which ain't prolific. But you got to remember as well, back in them days, you had players playing Saturday afternoon, midweek, Saturday afternoon, midweek, Saturday afternoon, midweek.
Yeah.
You never heard them moaning about fatigue, too many games, and everything else. And they was coming up against.
I don't know how they did it.
They was coming up against proper defenders. They were getting clattered, tackled from behind. Then was part of the game. Tackling from behind was just the norm. But when you touched on Malcolm McDonald, Kenny, it was a great thing because I remember Malcolm McDonald when I was a kid, and when the ball used to go out to the wings, all I used to shout out was cross it, cross it, cross it, because I knew that when that ball went in the air, there was only one winner, and that was going to be Malcolm McDonald. And that was the key. He was kind of he was an out and out goal scorer, Malcolm McDonald. You never see him kind of doing a lot of tracking back or anything, but that weren't his job. His job was just to hang around the box, and anything that went in there, he'd pounce on them. And I remember when he came from Newcastle, they were absolutely devastated because he was they went really down into mourning, the Newcastle fans, and that they lost one of their top players. But that's all I remember. Malcolm McDonald. It was every single time. He'd never get out jumped. He'd never get out muscled by a defender. And he was quick, and again, he was Jez. He was another player that was quicker than people give him credit for.
100%. That left foot was like a cannonball, and I think he was a good foil for Big Frank as well, Frank Stapleton, because Frank Stapleton was a very good servant for us. Yeah, I wasn't happy the way he left the club. But when you think about Frank Stapleton, one of his best attributes is that he's probably
header.
Before Alan Smith came to the club, he was the best striker. He was in best header, expert at heading. He was brilliant. Yeah, he had that leap, and I thought I'll never see an Arsenal striker that was great in the air like Frank Stapleton. You put a cross at a sixpence, Frank Stapleton is either testing the goalkeeper, he's scoring. He was brilliant, phenomenal.
Oh, he was fantastic,
and he worked hard as well. And he had a good bit of pace as well, Frank Stapleton.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about his performance in the semi-final against Wolves in '79, he got both the goals. One of them was very unlike Frank Stapleton goal, where he scored from about 20 yards, one of the goals. But he's another player that you look at that team that got to the final in 78, 79, 80. Frank Stapleton was part of that team. Plus,
incredible, yeah.
You add in the Cup Winners' Cup in 1980. He was a fulcrum on that side, and that's one of the reasons why I'm hard on Frank, is because we came third in 1981. We weren't close to winning the title, but we got into Europe, played well, had some really good games. We for a club like Arsenal get third. The season before we got fourth, albeit we were a knackered team. This side, was quite fresh. We had some really good players. We had David Price, we had Alan Sunderland. We still had Graham Ricks. Very good side. But when Frank Stapleton left, that was the beginning and the end, because we lost Alan Sunderland. A lot of players were, a bit on the wane. We lost Pat Rice before that, but Frank Stapleton leaving pushed Arsenal back to 2 years. If you look at the demands of Arsenal after he left, the sacking of Terry Neal, the 82-83 season which was an absolute disgrace. The 83-84 season was becoming a bit of a shit show. I put it down to not replacing Frank Stapleton. That's how good Frank was. Yeah. And that's why I'm agreed he's moving.
And do you know what, Kenny? There's similarities to today's team, because when Frank Stapleton left, we went on a 2-year down. We went on a 2-season downward spiral.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm worried about. The current crop of young players, if we don't get our act together, the Salibras and Gabriel's leaving, we could end up doing the same thing. But Frankie boy was, again, he was in the 100-goal plus club, wasn't he? 108 goals.
Yeah,
and he made his, I think it was like 300 appearances dead on he made, Frank Stapleton. But what Frank Stapleton had was his movement to create space. He used to, when you see strikers of today and they highlight it on Match of the Day and Alan Shearer and people like that, he'd run forward, check back, or he'd run to the near post, check back to the far post. His movement to evade defenders was very, very good. And that's why he scored a lot of goals with his head, because he'd create his own space. Very intelligent player. Very intelligent player.
He wasn't all that. He held the ball up quite well, but not as well as Alan Smith. But
no.
I think a special mention has to go to Assemble's mentioned Brian Kidd. Now, Brian Kidd was probably when I was a toddler at the club, but if you look at Brian Kidd's record, Brian Kidd, was a good servant for us. He joined us at probably the wrong time, because when Brian Kidd was at Arsenal, that was that time when Arsenal were finishing like 15th or 16th, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where DJ's gone. He's disappeared.
Guys, I've lost the camera.
All right. Okay. Here's a question then. Good question. Thanks for your super chat, Andy. Charlie Joel to Charlie Nicholas. Kenny, what do you think?
Well, both. Well, Charlie George, you basically at the time we loved both of the players. We loved Charlie George because he was Islington born and bred. He's one of us. And not only he was one of us, he could play and he delivered. You know, you're never ever going to forget Charlie George's winning goal against Liverpool.
No.
In the FA Cup final, 1971, in extra time, when all the goals were in extra time. You won't forget his performance in the quarter-final against Man City, when he got the winner with a indirect free kick, and the fact that, you know, he gave us loads of memories. He was our very own. It was our very own George Best, local boy. But Charlie Nicholas, he also scored in the League Cup final against Liverpool, when Liverpool never lost when Ian Rush scored. And Charlie Nicholas, I don't know about everyone here, but everyone had a Charlie Nicholas haircut except for me, obviously, for obvious reasons. But he was very iconic because we bought him from Celtic when he scored 62 League and Cup goals. And we thought that he was going to be a prolific goal scorer. But for me, because he's an Islington boy, and because he delivered more silverware to the football club, I'm going Charlie George. But Charlie Nicholas was a very, very good player for us. But if you don't mind me saying so, guys, he's very much like Mesut Ozil. He had a good game every 5 games, won every 5 games.
Mm. Yeah. DJ, what do you reckon, mate? Charlie George, Charlie Nicholas?
Very similar goal ratio, really. 49, I think Charlie, I don't know what Charlie scored. I think he was only in the 50s, wasn't he? I think people think he scored more goals than what he actually did. It's a difficult one for me because when Charlie came, it was the lift the club needed at the time.
Mm.
And he was a bit of a poster boy. He came down from, you know, Scotland. And at the time, it was a big lift, what we needed. And again, he was a very intelligent player as well. His movement, I think, you know, albeit when he scored that goal against Liverpool in the League Cup, when Perry Groves went skipping down the wing, you know, took a bit of a deflection. But again, his movement, check in, check out. But at the two, it's a difficult. I would say Charlie George. If they was both playing at the same time and I was manager, I think I would start Charlie George because of his all-round play. And because Charlie George used to make a lot of runs from deep and stuff like that. So,
very hard-working player, Charlie George.
He was.
He did a lot of things off the ball, which caused a lot of issues for, like, well, classic point in the game, 70-71 Cup final. You know, he was dragging defenders out of position. But the amazing, anyway, we all know about the goal he scored.
Yes, didn't Charlie Nicholas kind of do that? Wasn't he? Although not as effective as Peter Beardsley, he kind of played behind the front too, didn't he? He kind of played behind Mariner and Tony, and he did create sort of space, and he was one of those players who was.
Yeah, he was a bit. He was more like a number. He was more like a modern day number 10, wasn't he? Really?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, he was more like Charlie Nicholas was more like a modern day number 10. 54 goals he got. Yeah. So I mean, you know, a lot of people thought he'd scored actually more than that, but yeah, he was like a modern day number 10. I'll be honest, our current captain, I'd like him to take a leaf out of Charlie Nicholas's book. You know, then he might bang a few more goals in, but.
He had a good record against Tottenham. He did.
He loved playing against Tottenham.
He both home and away. He always seems to like bang goals in against Tottenham. But I think with Charlie Nicholas, I think when you look at his records, you know, he had great panache, he had great skill. You know, he was very, very good at, you know, getting in his pockets of spaces, and he liked to create openings for the strikers. But what we wanted the sort of goal return that, you know, he's got at Celtic, and I don't think we realised we were getting a different kind of player. I think when Arsenal did the scouting, I think they needed to realise that Charlie Nicholas was a bit better than someone who could just play with his back to goal and strike. Because there was a time when, believe it or not, there were times when Charlie Nicholas, for the first 15 games, he never scored. He didn't score.
No, that's true.
But the style of play we was playing at the time wasn't geared to scoring
Well,
Lots
Don
of
Howe,
goals.
Don Howe.
Yeah, it was
John
very
John Cartwright era, isn't it?
It was very defensive in a lot of ways. So, you know, to score the goals he did get during his time was very good. But he had a lot of skill, Charlie Nicholas. He had a good
absolutely.
Yeah,
I always like to say the best way to describe Charlie Nicholas, when someone said it to me, an Arsenal fan, he's like a poor man Dennis Bergkamp.
Yep. You took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
In terms of like,
he's like a cheap version of Dennis Bergkamp. You know, instead of the Aston Martin in Dennis Bergkamp, you got like the full.
He had fantastic vision.
You know,
he had great vision.
And
he scored some really important goals.
Really intelligent player.
Do you remember that there was a period where in the 85-86 season where we beat Liverpool 2-0, and then during that Christmas period we beat Man United away, and Charlie Nicholas scored in both of those games. Like we beat Noel Quinn got a goal on his debut in a game against Liverpool. Charlie Nicholas got the winner at Old Trafford when Man United were making one of their numerous attempts to win the title. Obviously, in the 80s, ladies and gentlemen, Man United were the Man United you see today in the 80s, where they were a bit of a flash in a pan. Like one season, you think that they'll win the title, and then the next season they'll be terrible. But yeah, believe it or not, in the 80s, Man United used to spank our ass quite a lot, home and away. If you remember, do you remember the 80s season?
No matter how bad Man United were in the 80s, they always used to get one over on us, and they've always been our rivals.
Players like Norm Whiteside, Mark Hughes, Brian Robson, especially Whiteside and Stevie Coppell. Although Jez remembers the 6-2 when Lee Sharp got a hat trick.
I remember the 6-2. I was standing right at the front of the clock end at that time, and it was it was about to kick off.
We all went in my place, you know. He came up to me and said, "Ken, do you want to know the score, or do you want to watch it on midweek sports special?" I said, "I want to watch it in midweek sports special, but your face, you look like you've seen a ghost and you're sweating." He said, "Ken, if I told you this, you wouldn't believe it." I said, "Well, do I have to watch a midweek sports special?" He said, "Well, I'm going to tell you anyway, but you won't believe it." And he went, "What happened?" "We lost 6-2. I went, I said, "F off. Really?" He said, "Ken, I know you said it was my. I know you told me to go on your place because I was studying because I had my mocks because I was doing I was late with a history assignment when I was doing the A levels, and for some stupid reason, even then I thought the League Cup was probably not as important as a cup game. He went in my place, and I couldn't believe it. And then when I saw it on TV, it was like, oh, God, wow!
I still remember the kit they played in at Highbury, that blue, white. It was an awful night. It was awful.
I did go to the game when we got revenge and beat them at our second to last home game of the season.
Let's move on to this one from Real Gooner. Tony Woodcock.
Whoa.
Arsenal from Cologne.
Yeah, I rated him. I rated Tony Woodcock. I like Tony Woodcock.
Loved him.
Go on.
I like Tony Woodcock. He used to come in. He used to come in from the left-hand side. He had a lot of pace, Woodcock.
Yes,
and he could hit a ball. He could really hit a ball. Not like the clowns of today. He could hit a ball when he laced it, mate. That flew. But he again, very much sort of not obviously not on Henri's level, but very very much good with the ball at his feet. As soon as that ball went to his feet, it was very, very difficult to get off him, you know. And 68 goals Wood has scored for us, and there wasn't many bad ones amongst them. You know, they were all good goals. Very, very good player. I think he made about 150, 169 appearances, round about the 160 mark. So his strike rate weren't bad, but he I don't know, Kenny. I can't remember. He wasn't signed as an out-and-out striker, was he?
Unique.
I'm muted, Kenny.
No, sorry. He was very much. We've got him from Cologne, where initially he was at Nottingham Forest. I think he played in one of their European Cup winning teams. I think he was there in '79, and I think the same season he went to Cologne. We got him from Cologne, and ironically, he wasn't actually. You're right, because remember we had Lee Chapman.
We did, yeah. And Lee Chapman was the main focal point of the team, wasn't he?
He was the main focal point. I think Lee Chapman was bought at us. I don't know. Was Lee Chapman was bought just before we got Tony Woodcock in the side, but Lee Chapman was, the next best thing, because he had a couple of good seasons at Stoke, and then obviously we bought him as a replacement for Frank Stapleton. But initially, you're right, he was there to sort of like be a foil for Lee Chapman. Lee Chapman was going to hold the ball up, and Tony was going to get the bits, but it didn't quite work out that way, to the extent that because Lee Chapman didn't work out. Obviously, he went to Sunderland. And he obviously went to Sheffield Wednesday, but he did fantastically well.
Oh, yeah.
We had to buy Paul Mariner to do the job that Lee Chapman was meant to do for Tony Woodcock. So it's a case where Tony Woodcock was just meant to play just behind Lee Chapman, but it didn't work out. And Paul Mariner was the foil, and Tony became our main striker. And I think his best season, obviously, is the 83-84 season. We talk about Aston Villa, 6-1. He got 5 goals. And believe it or not, but on that same day at Anfield, Liverpool beat Luton 6-0. Ian Rush got 5 goals that day. So on that same day, Ian Rush got 5. Tony Woodcock got 5.
And he was the leading goal scorer, I think, for 2 seasons running. I think he was bagging like 20, 22, 23 goals a season.
He was. Yeah, he was. I only found that out today.
Yeah.
Leading goal scorer in the 80s for 2 seasons.
For 2 seasons, 23, 24 goals. So he was good for us. He was one of my favourites, Tony Woodcock, to be honest.
England international as well. A regular English
player. We have missed one player that we haven't talked about. We've skipped over him. We've missed him, and that is,
Bright Kids,
of course, Liam Brady.
Was he a striker? Was he a striker though?
No, he wasn't. He was midfield. Got to mention him. Don't care.
Brady. Yeah, it wouldn't be gone. It would not be fair on the community here today if we don't mention
2 special goals. There's 2 special goals.
The one and only.
There's 2 special goals.
Yeah,
both similar. Leeds United
and Spurs.
And Tottenham.
Yeah. What about that? Just take a look at that.
I'll mention it.
Do you know? And these strikers will all say, if they was on this show now, all these strikers who played with Brady would turn around and say, we wouldn't have got the goals if Brady hadn't have been in the team.
Yeah.
Because one thing that player had, which I don't see today very often, he had 2 feet that was good as one another. He had a left foot and a right foot, and none of them had any weakness. And he could dribble, go past player. His balance was incredible.
Unbelievable. But I know he's not a striker, so talk more about him in next week's show when we talk about the great midfielders.
Oh, definitely.
But of course, we've missed Alan Sunderland. But we move on. Go
on, Kenny. Oh, yeah, go on. I think you've got to say about Alan Sunderland, Kenny. Go on, sorry.
You can't forget Alan Sunderland, because obviously he came from Wolves, the winner in the cup final. But one thing about Alan Sunderland as well, both of them, one of the things I liked about Alan Sunderland and Frank Stapleton together, they never got in each other's spaces. They always knew when to race. When Sunderland, like I said, drop back, Stadium will go. Either one drop back, either will go.
It was a brilliant partnership, wasn't it?
Excellent partnership. And Sunderland had a fantastic record as well. And he actually stayed probably a couple of seasons after we lost Frank. But again, it was never the same with Frank Alan Sunderland. He paired him with John Orley. I think they started pairing him with Lee Chapman, and then I think Alan Sunderland, I think went to Nottingham Forest, didn't he?
Yeah,
or was it young?
But Alan Sunderland and Frank Stapleton had a great partnership bit like the old McAvenny and what's it at West Ham.
You know what? It's probably our best partnership before the Wenger era for me.
Yeah.
Big up, yeah.
But that's back in the day where playing two centre forwards or two forwards was the norm, wasn't it? None of this one up front as your pivotal.
Yeah, but
it was always 4-4-2.
Yeah, but that's but the thing is, when you play with two centre forwards, that's when you play with wingers, isn't it? There's none of these inverted wingers now.
Yeah.
You can only play with one up top because we don't play with wingers anymore. You know, you think that's when you think about all the great partnerships, you know, in the 70s and 80s, common denominator, wingers on the left and right, who are direct, left-footed wingers on the left-hand side, right-footed wingers on the right-hand side, and I think that's when you look at it and proper partnerships. You're never going to see that again in football because you can't put the genie back in the bottle because 4-3-3 works.
No, exactly. I mean, out of the era, I'm going to say something here, Jez and Kenny. Out of that little era of Sunderland, Stapleton, Woodcock, Nicholas, all them, who would, if you was manager now and you had one signing to make, who would it be?
I think it'll have to be Tony.
Woodcock for you, Kenny. Yeah.
Yeah, Woodcock. And it's not good.
Yeah,
I like Woodcock because Tony Woodcock finishing best finisher out of the lot.
I'm gonna upset you here, Kenny. I've got to go Frank Stapleton. I'm afraid.
I understand that.
I was going to say that.
You know, and that's honestly, Kenny, that's not to upset you, my friend, because I know you've never forgiven him for moving on. But
it's how he did it. You know, players who engineer and moves for the right reasons for them. But every time you engineer a move and how you do it, I've got no problem with players engineering moves, but it's how you do it.
Yeah,
who you go to. And I think, you know, I didn't like the way he left the football club. But then again, Viv Anderson, I didn't like the way he left to go to Man United. Even though it was the right reason for him. At 31, the money Man United were offering, I still thought I hate the way he left.
You say the same, basically. Well, maybe not, but to a point with Van Persie. Anyway, I want to talk about this man.
Oh yeah.
Smudger.
You have to talk about Smudger.
Yeah. What is there not to like about that guy? Scored, of course, top goal scorer, 2 seasons on the bounce. Scored the opening goal against Liverpool, the iconic game. 155 million Arsenal fans were there, apparently. So I'm told. All there. all in the ground. I know it was tight in the Anfield Road end, but yeah. Anyway, there's another story. Alan Smith, what a player. What a player.
Well, 115 goals, so he's in the 100 club. Yeah. Again, a lot of appearances, 330, 40 odd, I think, something like that, round about then, if I can remember. But one thing with Alan Smith, he was a nice professional as well, wasn't he? You know, he was a good professional, wasn't he? One of the nicest guys. And I remember when I used to the old Ivory, waiting outside the Marble Halls and all of that. And I remember him coming up to me, and I had my programme and everything else. And he always had time for the fans and everything else. But what he was very, very good at doing, and I still don't see a striker of today with quite with the hold-up play that he had. That player could be amongst 6, 7 defenders. And that ball, no matter where it came to him, he would somehow find a way to get it under control. You never see him miscontrol the ball. Very rarely see him miscontrol the ball. And again, he wasn't bulky. He wasn't like a massive presence. But remember the goal he got in the against Parma? I mean,
yeah.
And and against a very, very good Parma team. I mean, they were one of the top teams then. They had some brilliant players and brilliant defenders. And he was instinctive, wasn't he? Took the touch, brought it down, smashed it on the volley.
He used to glide, didn't he?
Yeah.
Glided around. It was like unbelievable football.
Again, he could score tap-ins, but a lot of people don't remember Alan. But he was also very, very good in the air as well, Alan Smith. He had a good leap on it as well. You know, and a lot of people don't recognise that with Alan Smith. But he was very, very good in the air and very brave as well. You know, I used to see him go for headers in amongst defenders, and you just think, oh, hang on a minute, he's going to come out. No, he wouldn't shy away. Not like the current player we got at the moment. No, I've got nothing but praise for Alan Smith. Generally a nice guy. Loved the Arsenal. You know, scored some brilliant goals for us. Remember, you know, and on a big occasions he scored for us as well.
Oh, yeah,
the Anfield, and in the cup when in Europe. So he weren't just scoring goals in league games. He used to show up on the big occasions, like most of the strikers we've just been talking about. You know, so yeah, that's Alan Smith for me. What can I say?
Would you take him back if we went back in time? Would
I sign him now?
Bring him forward in time. Would you take him now?
Yeah, 100%.
All day long.
100%. I'm not sure he'll get in front of the ones we're going to go on to, the Henrys and the Bergkamps and the Van Persies. I'm not sure he would cut amongst that.
No, I get that.
But I'll be honest with you, he wouldn't weaken any squad.
Yeah.
If you had him coming off the bench for an injured player or someone that's injured or someone that had to step in for sort of 10, 12 games, he wouldn't make you any weaker. He might not be better than what you've like the Henrys and the Bergkamps and people like that, but he wouldn't make you any weaker. You'd still know there'd be goals in him. So, I would take him. And again, price tag now, if he was probably in his heyday now, I suppose he'd be around about the 60, 70 million, 60, 50, 60 million mark, I would say.
All day. All day, I'd say.
Yeah.
Kenny,
100%.
Alan Smith, smudger.
Loved him, man. You know the thing about Alan Smith is that, like we always have this conundrum about having a striker, and that a striker makes a difference. It's the difference between you winning things and not winning things. Well, in 89 and 91, he got the Adidas Golden Boot, 23 in 89 and 22 in 91. He was the missing link. You think about it, is that, obviously, like I said, the building blocks was the 1987 and League Cup win against Liverpool, and finished fourth that season when Martin Hayes got 19 goals, but he wasn't really a striker. We had Niall Quinn.
No.
And Niall Quinn worked hard, but Niall Quinn wasn't quite what we were looking for, but he gave his all for Arsenal.
Yeah.
Fast forward now, even during that period when we won the Littlewoods Cup, we already signed Alan Smith. All the work was done, all the personal terms were agreed in April '87. And I actually remember on Bank Holiday Monday, we played Leicester City, who were about to get relegated anyway, and we scored 4-1, and we beat them 4-1. Alan Smith, I believe, got the Leicester goal. And it was quite unique because there was a lot of irony. A lot of the Arsenal fans were singing jokingly, "You'll never play for Arsenal." But when he went off the pitch, he actually got a standing ovation because we knew he was coming to the club. But his first season when he came was 87, 88. Again, he struggled for goals. But his first goals was a hat-trick against Portsmouth. We beat 6-0. Again, it was the Saturday before Bank Holiday, before the August Bank Holiday, and that's when you knew, we got a player in our hands. It was a bit, he had to learn his trade because we still had Noel on the side, but obviously Noel was sidelined. But what we didn't have, we had David Rocastle, but David Rocastle wasn't quite the sort of player that we needed for Alan Smith. He wasn't a Brian Marwood or Angus Limpard. David Rocastle was more than a winger.
He liked playing with Merson, though, didn't he, Alan Smith?
Yeah. And that's the thing.
He loved Merson.
Yeah, Merson was very good with him together in the 87. I think Merson just was coming into his own because I think in 86, 87, Merson, I think he made his debut against Wimbledon. And then 87, 88 season, he was slowly coming aside because we were using big Noel as a bit of a foil. But I think when we saw the best of Alan Smith was probably season after. But let's not forget that Little's Cup final in 88, the game where how did we lose to Luton Town? And it's not because it's Luton Town, it's because of the chances we created. Alan Smith got if I remember right, Alan Smith scored one of the goals when we went 2-1 up. And, he had a very, very good game that season. And that's when I thought, we've got a player in our hands. But when we signed Brian Marwood, that was it. Brian Marwood on one side, Paul Merson is his foil, David Rocastle playing for the right. That's when we were a team. That's when we won the league, although we should have won it at a canter. But there was a period from about August up until November where we actually played good football. Everyone talks about boring Arsenal, long ball game. No. There was a little cup game against Liverpool at Anfield where the football we played was sublime. Rocastle got the goal. Alan Smith holding the ball up. That Brian Wild having like I said, Stephen.
It was similar to the football that the Invincibles played under Wenger.
Definitely. And Alan Smith was very much part of it. Everyone assumed because Alan Smith was great in the air, we played a long ball game. We didn't. Alan Smith didn't have the pace for that. Alan Smith held the ball up. He's the only player that I've seen at Arsenal who could do that job. Everyone said Giroud could hold the ball up. No. Yeah, he's not. Alan Smith is levels above Giroud when it comes to holding the ball up. But one thing about Alan Smith, it was the goals he scored.
And the thing is, right?
Yeah.
Go on, Kenny. Sorry, go on.
Do you remember the game against Norwich in 89, where we won 5-0? Alan Smith hat-trick.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember the way when he got the ball, he held the ball up,
he just mentioned it
in the net.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh, incredible.
Got the ball, held it up, turned, bang, right in the net, and that was
absolutely incredible. Yeah.
Do you remember that goal? Or
smashed it. Yeah.
Smashed it. Absolutely smashed it.
Yeah.
Do you remember the game against North London Derby against Tottenham at White Hart Lane, where one of the goals was a Brian Wild cross. Alan Smith gets in front of his mark, gets in front of the man, but bang into the net.
Makes the run into the net. Yes. Yeah, brilliant. And as I said, underrated. But one thing with what Smudger was good at, his hold-up play. The reason why that was so effective is because when our defence were under pressure, he was the sort of person that you could just bash the ball up to. He'll hold it up, draw a foul, or he'll hold it up long enough for the back four and the midfield to get in positions to get back into position to capitalise, all day long. He was that sort of, he was that good. I remember Lee Dixon I think he said it on the 89. He didn't really want the ball. He was a bag of nerves then. He said his legs were like jelly and all he could think of was just getting the ball up to Smudger to hold the ball up. That's all he could think of. All he was looking for was Smudger's run. He couldn't feel his legs. He'd gone. Dixon had gone and he couldn't feel it. And he just blasted that ball up. And as we all know, Smudger then brought it down, saw Mickey Thomas in the corner of his eye. Again, good vision, clips the ball in and the rest is history,
There's a good question here from Sushil. Big up, gents. Is the sale of Andy Cole the biggest mistake?
Well, I would say, in hindsight, what he went on to do at Man United, you would have to say possibly yes. But at the time, you know, I'm not so sure.
A bit of a wild cannon, though, wasn't he?
He was. He was a bit erratic. I think if he'd have stayed at Arsenal, I'm not. You know, I'm not so sure with the team we had at the time he would have achieved what he achieved at Man United. So it's a bit of a difficult one for me.
The football we played under George
didn't suit Andy Cole really.
Not so much when not so much in the late 80s, early 90s, but after when we got to the Premiership, where we played the sort of long ball over the top with no midfielders and no panache, just free and right. That would never have suited Andy Cole. Although Andy Cole's got a bag of pace, he needed build up play. He needed what he got in Newcastle, Peter Beardsley. But when I think of Andy Cole, I remember the Charity Shield against Spurs in '91. Believe it or not, there was a North London Charity Shield because we won the league and Spurs won the FA Cup. And I do remember Andy Cole coming on and hitting the side netting. I do remember that. One thing, the reason why I didn't think it was a bad decision, because you think about it, we just won the league at a canter. Kevin Campbell came onto the scene and he was scoring goals for fun alongside Alan Smith. Plus we had Merce. We didn't actually need Andy Cole.
No.
Although hindsight is 2020 because we didn't win the league for 7 years after that, and he went on one leagues. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. So, it just didn't suit him at the time. It's very hard to say whether it was one of the biggest mistakes because, as I said, hindsight's a wonderful thing. At the time, it didn't suit Andy Cole at Arsenal. But then looking back when we went on that run where we didn't win anything, and he did, people are going to turn around and say it was a mistake. But
we had Ian Wright scoring goals, though, DJB, didn't we? Ian Wright was scoring goals, and his standards and his record was phenomenal. But the start of play was great. The start of play to cater for Ian was that because we know. I think it's a good link when you talk about Alan Smith and you bring on Ian Wright. I say it respectfully because I know a lot of people are Ian Wright fans, and a lot of fans became Arsenal fans because of Ian Wright. But Ian Wright killed the career of Alan Smith and Kevin Campbell. Yeah, that's factual because of the way we played. Ian Wright, if you don't mind me saying so, basically was one of the pioneers of the breakup of 4-4-2. He was a breakup of the twin strikers.
He was.
You know, I mean, obviously, and I actually find it, quite extraordinary to say because before he came, it was Wright and Bright at Palace, wasn't it? The Wright and Bright partnership. But he came to Arsenal, and you didn't really need the second striker of Ian Wright in the side.
He was just, he was immense.
I mean, Ian Wright. I mean, I remember this. What a fool I was, right? When we bought him from Palace in 1991, right? My boss at the time was a Palace fan, and we bought him just after the cup final, wasn't it? Palace lost to Man United, I think.
Was it Liverpool, wasn't it? No, that was the Red.
Liverpool, could have been Liverpool.
I can't remember it.
I remember we bought him, and I said, "You don't do no good at Arsenal. Don't need him. What a waste of fucking money." Right? How wrong was I? Right? How wrong was I? I mean, Ian Wright. I mean, yeah, I don't agree with his punditry, whatever.
Wow.
But phenomenal, the ultimate fox in the box.
Yeah.
I mean, but before you talk about him, one sad player I always felt sorry for, right? Very quickly, I thought was Paul Vasson. Promising talent.
Yeah.
Ended his career at the age of 21 with that horrible knee.
Yeah. And he would have been a good player.
He never came back. 2 years injured. We've got to mention him because he did have a little bit of an impact, but sadly, it wasn't to be. Such a shame.
Good shout, that Jez.
Such a shame.
I
liked him when I saw him play, but let's go on to Ian Wright. We've got to talk.
What can you say about this man? I mean, there's when people say scoring goals for fun, that's Ian Wright.
Yeah,
He used to score goals for fun, and he loved scoring goals. He loved. I mean, all right, his punditry, he's had to kind of go in, and it's the modern day thing now. You have to say the right things and all that, but he does love the Arsenal still. He generally does still love the Arsenal. You can't deny his love for the football club. Broke the great man's record, didn't he? And I didn't think I'd ever see another player like him. And to be honest, in so many ways, I never. He had everything, didn't he? He came on the set, and I was like you, Jez. I'm thinking, why are we signing this guy? He's played at Palace. He's learnt his trade from non-league. He ain't really been to any kind of big clubs where he's learnt his trade. Why are we buying him? And I remember one goal. I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been, was it Everton? I can't remember. We all remember the Bergkamp hat-trick against like Leicester where he's chipped it one. But I remember he was on the edge of the box on the angle. And I remember when he flicked it one way, flicked it the other way, and he just lobbed it over the goalkeeper. I mean, he just had everything. Pace, finishing one-on-one with a keeper. He was brave, wasn't he? I mean, look when he stood up against Schmeichel, against Man United, nothing fazed him.
I just think, I always remember he was quite a cute little player. And I'm just going to throw this in the mix. When he played at Dulwich Hamlet, amateur, semi-professional, my best mate, Paul, rest in peace, lost him last year, played in goal at Dulwich Hamlet when Ian Wright was playing up front. And Paul used to say to me, this guy, I didn't know who he was. He said, this guy is unreal. He said he absolutely hammers the ball so hard. He actually admitted, right? He hits it so hard he wants to break the net. That's how hard. And he was that one season at Dulwich Hamlet. He scored something like 80 goals, and that's when Palace snapped him up, bought him.
He was scoring exactly, Jez. He was scoring like 24, 25 goals a season. He was just, again, his strengths was running in behind, getting the ball on the turn. Once he turned and he was running at you, there was no better player to watch as a forward than Ian Wright. Once he was running at a defender, because he'd go left, he'd go right, he'd only take one look, and he'd know where the keeper is. It doesn't matter where the keeper was. He'd always find the bottom corner. And if the bottom corner weren't available, he'd smash it top corner. It was just, what can I say about him? His goal celebrations and, he was a player that you hated if he wasn't at your club.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No one liked Ian Wright. They admired him, but no one liked Ian Wright. He was the sort of player that you loved if he was at your club, hated if he was playing against you, because he was that good. But again, he was intelligent. He could pick apart, and not many people know this, but he could pick a pass out as well, little through ball. And he'd go out on the wing, wouldn't he? He must have been a nightmare to manage because he'd practically do his own thing. He was, you couldn't. He would never be able to play under Arteta. Never. He'd be out on the left. He'd go out on the right. Then he'd pop up in the middle. He was a nightmare to mark. But that was him. He played with freedom, but you could never criticise his work rate. I never ever came out of the stadium watching Ian Wright and go, he didn't want to know today. Even when he weren't scoring, you could never walk out that stadium and go, he weren't up for it today. He weren't up. He always gave 100%. Brilliant.
That's one thing about him is his passion. He had a great enthusiasm for football. And I think my first kind of, obviously, you hear about Ian Wright, and the first time I've kind of, he was on kind of my radar, is that I kept on getting him mixed with Mark Bright, because I do remember Mark Bright at Leicester.
Right,
and I
right.
Palace.
Brilliant.
And all you heard from Palace was Wright and Bright, and they had a winger called Eddie McGoldrick who basically, he used to always get the bird from them if he didn't put in great skills.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, I actually remember Ian Wright. There was two things I remember about Ian Wright before he came to Arsenal. One, well, it's a few things, but one was when he broke his leg twice.
Yeah,
in a season in 89-90, and then when they got to the final against Liverpool, beating Liverpool, I saw him running up and hugging Alan Pardew, who got the winner that day. I said, bro, who's that? He went, I see him right. I went, bloody hell. And I thought, I'm going to keep out my eye on him. And then the final, he comes on, out of nowhere, he scores two brilliant, cracking goals. But you knew he wasn't fit. But one thing I saw from Ian Wright is that he was a street footballer. He wasn't a coach player. Alan Shearer, as a coach player,
he couldn't coach
player. Stang, bit of a street footballer, bit of his own thing. Robbie Fowler, natural fitter, but still a coach player. Ian Wright was one of those players you think you can't coach what Ian Wright had. He was one of those players who can score goals out of nothing, find space out of nothing. You got quick feet. Do you remember the goal that he scored against Tottenham in the North London derby? He did that turn and a back turn and put that cross in for Bergkamp when he made it 3-1. But one of the things I remember about Ian Wright, and I knew he'd be an Arsenal legend, is on his debut, came on as a sub against Leicester City away in the League Cup, got the ball, turned his defender, curling shot, low shot into the corner of the net. That's what I thought. That's it. And then his next game, Southampton gets an hat-trick. Remember that? Him and Rocky got the goals. And then after it was mayhem.
He scored more hat-tricks than Henry. I
know. And you know the thing about it is that...
I didn't.
Yeah. You know that season, he got the golden boot in 91-92. When Gary Lineker because he's remember the game against Southampton. Remember, that's the most iconic game. He needed a hat trick to get the golden boot. It was the last game of the North Bank, because remember we had the mural the season afterwards, so it was very emotional. North Bank going. He gets a hat trick, 5-1. Ian Wright, golden boot. That season, second half of the season, we start smashing teams 4 or 5-1, 4-0.
Yeah.
And Ian Wright was prominent in that. Him and Kevin Campbell, that little partnership.
6 seasons, he was the leading goal scorer, Ian Wright. 6.
100%.
Six consecutive seasons leading goal scorer. Yeah. We talk about the Shearers and all that. 6. And I think he scored in total 11 hat-tricks.
Yeah. More hat-tricks.
Baston's goal. Do you remember that game when he?
Bolton Wanderers, 97.
Cliff Baston's goal scoring record. He got
it wrong the first time. Remember, he took the shot off. He thought he actually equalled it the first.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He went a couple of games before then because people were saying to him, "When are you going to break the record?" Do you remember? I think he went a couple of games where he hadn't scored, and he was. And then all of a sudden,
you know what, DJB Overmars would have passed to him.
No,
that's a fact.
What's a player?
One player we got to talk about. One player, Kevin Campbell.
Oh yeah,
yes.
God bless him.
Rest in peace.
I knew Kevin personally as well. Obviously, towards the end of his career, but the most unluckiest footballer that's ever been. And Arsenal fans, hang your heads in shame because you drove that poor man out of the club because he wasn't Ian Wright. Bolton Wanderers.
I was going to just say that.
Fourth round, you guys were terrible to that man.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth, Jed. I was just going to say they kept comparing him with Ian Wright, and you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And 100%. They crucified him.
Yeah.
Such a
Didn't
shame, I think. Such a
we
shame.
didn't appreciate him enough, but Everton did. He still loved us, and he still loved us more than Everton, but we didn't deserve his love because
No.
Everton treated him like a king.
Yeah, they did. They did, and he done well for Everton, which I was pleased about. He was a legend up there.
This guy here, Anelka. Now this is my view, my personal view. Great footballer, scored some great goals. I personally, his brother, his agent, whatever, manager, destroyed him. Personally,
Both of them did. Both the brothers did.
Both of them did.
Both the brothers, Claude and Didier.
Well, we've just been talking about Ian Wright, and Ian Wright still states today that Nicolas Anelka would have been, and what he saw in training and on a daily basis was better than Thierry Henry.
100%. 100%. I'm sorry, DJB. I thought to myself, there was one season in 97, 98, he had pace and he was one of the smoothest finishers. And he had a hard shot. He was strong, hold the ball up. He should have been the best player in the world. He should have got the Ballon d'Or every
100%.
season. He had more natural ability in terms of like a striker than Thierry Henry. I saw it in the 98-99 season when he had the full season for us. It was there. He was there.
He didn't get the starts. He didn't get enough starts for Arsenal, did he?
You know, I think his head went, but I think what's happened as well. He basically went on to a French journalist. He was complaining about Mark Overmars' link up with him, where Mark Overmars wouldn't pass the ball. Mark Overmars used to shoot rather than great chances. And I know Ian Wright had a problem with that towards he left. I know other players in the team had a problem with Mark Overmars. And obviously he had a problem with Dennis Bergkamp because he thought that they weren't passing the ball in the right position, but he thought that Dennis Bergkamp was playing to help Mark Overmars more than him. And it wasn't just the fact that he engineered a move for the money. I felt that he felt that the players, he had very little support of the players, because I know Alan Smith tells a story about Nicolas Anelka having to be persuaded by Arsene Wenger to go on the bus to an away game, because Nicolas Anelka thought the players turned against him, because I know Mark Overmars wasn't happy with Nicolas Anelka's article to the French L'Equipe, where he was accurate in his criticism of Mark Overmars. But there was a game when we played Lens when Overmars scores in a 1-1 draw, and Nicolas Anelka goes up to hug him, and Overmars says, "Don't touch me." And I saw that, and my mates, God bless his souls, who died, he said saw the same thing. So he had a point. There was a lot of players in the dressing room who turned against Nicolas Anelka.
I was just going to say that, Kenny. He wasn't. He was the sort of naughty kid in the classroom, really, wasn't he? In that dressing room, he
didn't have the emotional toughness to play at Arsenal, where he couldn't deal with the mick he'd taken. He was 19. He felt that, he didn't feel he had to help with Vieira, because obviously Vieira was young himself. And obviously Petit as well was new to the club, which is a shame, because I think, they were trying to get him to stay. But at the end of the day.
But I think if you'd have put Anelka, if Anelka would have been given, with all the brothers, and if he'd have been managed at the right time, Anelka probably would have been another French Mbappe. He was that good. He was that good. Even Henri said he's never seen a young player.
Can you imagine playing together?
Yeah. Oh, incredible.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what we have won if we had Henri and Anelka together?
Yeah.
Where Henri would just play off Anelka.
Your defences would live.
We would have won the Champions League with both of them in the team.
But then I don't think Henri would have been the striker he was if he hadn't have had Bergkamp, personally.
True.
Right,
but don't you see him for France though? Didn't you see him for France though? In the Euro, in the European Championships 2000, they played together and they won the European Championships.
Yeah, true.
Before we get into that one, let's very quickly talk about Canu.
Yeah.
Came in. I remember I was at Stamford.
Canu.
That amazing hat trick, right? Yeah, that amazing hat trick. But Canu, size 14 feet. Right? Yeah, had to have his boots specially made by Adidas. Right?
Lied about his age, I swear he did.
What a player. What a player.
I knew you would say that.
Do you know what, right? We've spoken about your Charlie Nicholases and all of that, 55 goals, Woodcott, 60-odd goals, 68 goals. But people don't realise Canu actually scored 44 goals for this club. 44 goals in 190. And again, he wasn't really... He was kind of like... He was bought in the club.
Yeah.
Of the type of player that this clown bought Havertz for. Do you know what I mean? He was kind of bought in as like a midfield but that I've never seen a goal like it. We can all remember that goal against Chelsea. Soaking wet, pitch was all heavy. He's gone out to the line and suddenly he's clipped this ball across. I mean, the skill he had.
Yeah.
And again, we spoke about balance of players like Liam Brady. What balance this? I mean, this guy used to get knocked off the ball, but he'd somehow, he'd drag his shoulder along the floor and he'd still be on his feet. He was bendy. He had everything. He was so tricky and skillful.
He's one of the most gifted. The biggest compliment I could pay to both Cafola and Canu. Those two are the most gifted players I've ever seen in an Arsenal shirt.
I was going to say, Kenny, naturally gifted.
But you saw Dennis Bergkamp play. But what I mean by that, when I talk about natural technical ability, and I mean technical ability, flawless technical ability.
It's like the Harlem Globetrotters.
And Nwankwo Kanu are one of the most naturally gifted players I've seen in an Arsenal shirt. Yeah.
I mean, it was like he was like something. He was like the equivalent of a Harlem Globetrotter, wasn't he, Kanu?
Yeah, where he played.
Do you know what I mean? He was like, oh yeah, no, he was a good player.
Do you remember his goal against Middlesbrough when Ray Parlour put the cross in and he just he was in the air and he flicked it past.
Oh yeah, in midair. Yeah.
Middlesbrough away when we put the 6-1 in the 98-90 season, he just flicked it.
Yeah,
in the air. It was on the volley. It was in the air. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he for a big man, for tall and his feet and everything else, he was very, very good.
Yeah, good feet.
Yeah, good shout, Jez. Had to mention him.
Let's move it on then. So we've got to. Do we have to? Should we?
Yes.
Should we talk about Thierry Henry?
Well,
the best player we ever had.
Oh, we skip him.
228 goals.
Mm-hmm.
How
many golden boots did he win as well at Arsenal?
Yeah,
in the Premiership. Is all right? The question I need to ask both of you. This is a bit of a conundrum. If you ask anyone who's the best, if you ask the majority of Arsenal fans who's the best player we ever had, they'll say Dennis Bergkamp, followed by Henry. But if you ask Arsenal fans and Premiership football fans who's the best player to ever grace the Premiership, they say Thierry Henry.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's the question. It comes down to own personal taste, isn't it? It's one of them things. Do you take sugar in your tea or don't you take sugar in your tea? You'd still drink a cup of tea if you was thirsty and you was dying for a cup of tea.
I love that.
But but it's whether you prefer it with sugar or without sugar, and that's Bergkamp and Henry.
Or the sugar could be a sweetener.
Yeah, it's see with me with Bergkamp and Henry, it's fine kind of.
Bergkamp was a midfielder, right? Thierry Henry was a striker.
Yes, I was just going to say 228 goals, 24 or more goals in consecutive seasons. I mean, he weren't just sort of scoring 18, 15, 18, 20 goals. He was getting over 24 goals every single season.
We don't need a striker, mate. We don't need a striker, DJ. But
no. I mean, when we come to the end of this, brilliant history channel, Jez,
we'll talk.
Hopefully, anyone that's watching, young or old, will turn around and go, "Oh Christ, I didn't think we needed a striker, but after listening to them, I think we need one." Right? But what can I say about Henry? Pace. And I think I've mentioned it before. I have never seen a player, and I can't remember who the game it was against. I think it was against Leicester. I'm not sure. Where he got the ball, and he got it at his feet, and he the first time he looked at that ball was when he got it under control, and then he didn't look at it anymore. And yet he went past me like a racehorse. It was like the wind. It was like a race. And the ball was still at his feet, and he never looked at it once. And his head was always up. He was looking left and right. Now, you try and do that running at full pace and looking behind. He even used to look behind him. He'd look behind him, see if there was any defenders coming up behind him, and he still had the ball at his feet running at like 100 miles an hour. It was just incredible player, and he's finished. But when he was brought into the club, he wasn't. He was brought in as a left winger.
Yeah,
he was brought in to play on the left. And I remember when he came into the club, his first couple of games, I'm thinking another one. I'm thinking, he's not. You remember we've just watched the Tony Woodcocks, the Frank Stapletons. We've watched Ian Wrights. So when he was brought in, I'm thinking, what have we done here?
We all remember this goal. I think was it the League Cup? It's the FA Cup.
Oh yeah, when he brought him off the bench.
He came back on a loan thing.
And you know what? Jez? If someone threw him in, even today, because he still looks after himself. Even today, if you gave him half a chance, he'd probably score.
You guys did. It was a Monday night kickoff. It was a Monday night kickoff.
Leeds.
I'll tell you one thing. When he came on and when he scored with his first touch, I'll tell you one thing. The stadium, I think the whole stadium, I thought the roof was going to collapse.
It was like an exhibition match, wasn't it? It was incredible.
But you know one thing about Thierry Henry. Obviously, he couldn't score. Basically, there was a song going about with my mate John. And I always remind him about this when I see him, because we used to always sing Thierry Henry, Thierry Henry, and he used to always sing in the background, waste of money, waste of money. And I was thinking, I got it out. And then there was a game against Derby in, I believe it was October, it was around November 99. He's had his first start as a striker. He scored 2 goals. We beat him 2-1. It's a Sunday game. After that, he never looked back. He just scored the odd goal here and there. Obviously, he scored his first goal.
Another thing, Henry, was a lot of the reason why these pundits like Carragher and a lot of the reason why they don't like Arsenal is because they'd had them every time they played against Henry, they was made to look crap.
Yes.
Footballers.
Especially Carragher.
All these centre halves and all these defenders that people talk about, these wonderful defenders and everything else, when they come and whenever they played against Henry, they was made to look stupid. And that's why a lot of these clubs, a lot of these old players today don't like Arsenal, because they actually got found out how bad of defenders they were. Because when he used to, if you look at some of the outtakes, or if you look at some of the old clips of the Henry goals, don't look at the Henry goals because we've all seen them. Look at the defenders' faces of some of the goals he'd scored.
Especially
The
Carragher.
defenders just used to stand there and just used to go and just shake their head as if to say, we can't cope with this. Put us out of our misery. We can't cope with it. And every defender now that's played against Henry would all of them, I bet you, would turn around and say, unplayable, unmarkable, unplayable.
He never got a Ballon d'Or, you know that?
I was just going to say, that guy that season should have walked the Ballon d'Or. How he never got the Ballon d'Or, I do not know to this day.
And they gave it to Nedved.
And I still say, Jez, Kenny, if Thierry Henry would have playing for Real Madrid, Barcelona, Man United,
yes,
and
right.
he would have got the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah,
without a shadow of that. I
think played for Arsenal that he never got that.
And maybe because we didn't win a Champions League with him in the team, and that is one of the biggest crimes ever. And that's one of the reasons why I do have a lot of resentment towards Arsene Wenger. That great team, even the team without Henry, how did we not win a Champions League?
I don't. Honestly, I can't talk about it. Honestly,
that team was built for the Champions League to win it. How did he?
Because we had Lehman in goal, not Lehman.
Cheated. I'm sorry. We were cheated. That referee didn't.
Oh yeah. So Sergio Hauger in Paris in 2006. I could, if
there was too much going on. There was too much going on within UEFA. There was too much going on. And Barcelona president.
I was at Paris. I was there as well. I couldn't believe it.
They was never going to lose that, Barcelona, ever.
Yeah.
Because there was too much going on within UEFA, the presidential side of things. They had money. They had backhanders going on.
Barcelona winning it.
Everything.
The referee has since admitted, right? He took a bump. He's admitted it.
He took a bump. Look how quickly he set off Lehman. When he could have given a goal. Julie put the ball in the net and he was away. You give the goal. If you want normal refs, they would play on and they give the goal. And then then if you give the goal, yellow card. But to send him off and then disallow a goal, and then we went 1-0 up. And I'll tell you one thing: if Barcelona didn't equalise, we'll be still playing today.
You think time was added? You think a lot of times gets added on now? That should have. Yeah,
It's funny when they went 2-1 up. There wasn't much injury time when they went 2-1 up. When
do you know what? That is the only game I can't ever get over. I can get over last night. I can get over the Ipswiches in the FA Cups, the West Hams.
No,
losing on penalties I can't get over it.
The Champions League final, I'll never get over that day. I can't
even watch it. I can't even watch it.
Remember it was raining that day in Paris. And I still remember getting on that coach and I still remember feeling sick. And I feel sick now just thinking about it.
Yeah.
And you know when something happens and you ruminate, didn't you? It took me weeks. I couldn't get it out of my head. Awful. But yeah, no, Henry, he had everything. The only probably weak part
of this is in the final and put us up 2-0.
Yeah.
No one at the back, no one at the front. Yeah. We ain't winning no Champions League, neither any Premier League. Yeah. Yes. That's the only probably weakness, I would say, or not. If you was to pick a weakness of Henry, he wasn't very good with his head, was he?
Oh, he's awful. Although he scored a good header against Man United when the
Blue He scored the odd header, but he weren't that brave with his head. And it proved that against the Irish when he handballed it. He weren't very brave with his head, was he?
Anyway, let's get into the next one. Aubameyang.
Yeah.
Golden Boot winner.
Brilliant footballer.
All went horrible wrong.
Can I say something controversial?
Yeah, of course you can.
Modern times, most people will remember what we're talking about now. So, what went wrong there, boys? What happened?
Well, first and foremost, with Aubameyang, as good as he was for us, we didn't have the team around him to help us win the league or get into the Champions League. The problem with Aubameyang is that regardless how much, well, let's just say you can't do that to your manager. Whatever, even if you feel justified about the reason for your anger, you don't do that to your manager. And some of the things one of the things I always say about Aubameyang is that he never wanted to sign that contract. He was trying to engineer a move to Chelsea that season before we won the FA Cup. He was a catalyst for it, but I think he regretted signing for Arsenal because he knew that with Arteta as a manager, that there would be going to be a long transition and that he probably wouldn't win trophies. And he definitely wouldn't challenge for the league because of the fact that we're in a process. But one thing about Aubameyang as well, the manager who got the best out of him was Unai Emery.
Yeah. See, my opinion with Aubameyang is slightly different to a lot of Arsenal fans. People said that he had a bad attitude at the dressing room, etc., etc., etc. But if you're a good manager like Ferguson, George Graham, and the great managers, Ancelotti and people like that, part of your job and your mechanics is to manage players.
100%.
And part of brilliant players, the likes of Aubameyangs, your Ian Wrights and your Henrys, they all come with an element of brashness, flashness, attitude. They've all got attitude. That's what makes them great players. Henry's now still cocky when he talks. Oh yeah, if I'm up against a defender and you don't get to me first, you're gone. I've done you. Blah 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 blah. They've all got that. And part of being a good manager is managing them players. And unfortunately, with Arteta and Aubameyang, and even today, this is the biggest problem with Arteta. He can't manage superstars. He can't manage anyone. He can't manage anyone with egos.
Without a shadow of doubt.
He can't manage anyone with egos. So when we say he needs to sign this player and this player and this player, he has to look for a certain type of player that he can manage. He couldn't manage a Ronaldo. He couldn't manage a Messi. He couldn't manage an Aubameyang. But
he couldn't manage Ozil.
He couldn't manage Mesut Ozil. But what you got to remember, Aubameyang as a striker, he was a natural goal scorer. I think Andy's made a point about obviously turn up for the Northland Derby. There was a lot going on behind the scenes, and I've spoken to someone, and I don't want to name him, but he told me that there were things during that. Obviously, Jez knows what happened because I've told Jez on quite a few occasions, and I'll tell you after we finished why the final straw. Yeah. But I got a good authority that during the lockdown season, I was told first and foremost that he regretted signing a new contract. He didn't want to do it. No, he didn't want to do it.
He didn't want to do it, but he felt he had to because of the pressure from the fans. But there was a lot of things he was doing during lockdown, and there were requirements. For instance, basically, you know, that time when they were talking about, social distancing and taking a jab. He refused to take the jab, and there was a period where there was a Europa League game where, because it was, I think it was, we were playing a team in Ireland. He purposely came back late from a trip abroad, so he wouldn't have to quarantine. So basically, he made himself ineligible for a UEFA Cup game. So that was the two things he did that got up the manager's nose. And the Tottenham thing was after that happened, and obviously,
But one thing people don't realise, if Aubameyang won us the FA Cup,
Yeah.
right? I don't care what anyone says. I know it's a team effort, but basically Aubameyang's goals and the way Aubameyang was that season won us the FA Cup, right? Now, if Aubameyang hadn't have won us that FA Cup, Arteta wouldn't be in the position he's in now.
He probably wouldn't have a job. He probably wouldn't have a job,
right?
I think, yeah.
So you've got to put respect. You've got to put a bit of respect on Aubameyang.
You have to. I've said I'm all with the player. However, regardless of whether you're with a player or not, you don't. What he did at the end, you don't do that to your manager.
No. I totally agree. I totally agree with you there, Kenny.
You can't do that to your manager.
No. And no one's bigger than the club.
Even though your family, it was something to do with his mum, and even though you can't win if you do that to your manager, even though you feel justified, and obviously you protect your mum, and your mum comes first, but you still can't do that to your manager.
No, 100%. But he was a good goal scorer. We haven't.
He's brilliant.
Anyway, right, before we wrap this up, to sum it up, guys, we've missed out a few, which of course you will, because there's going to be loads in there.
Can I just...
DJ, who, all the players we've talked about, striker-wise, to you, who's the best of the best?
Well, before I go on to that, I think there's one player that we have missed and we must mention.
Go on.
Robin Van Persie.
Go on. Yeah, please do.
Van Persie, 132 goals. And what people don't realise, he was a fantastic footballer. And that volley he scored coming onto it, I think, was against Watford. One of the best goals I've ever seen to this day.
You remember that, yeah?
Yeah, right. One of the best goals I've ever seen today.
Who got the assist? Song.
Yeah, right. If anyone wants to look at a fantastic goal, forget the Rooney overhead kicks and all of that. Go and look at that goal. So Robin Van Persie definitely mentioned. And another thing I will say about Robin Van Persie is what people don't realise, when he was leaving the club, how Kenny felt about him leaving the club. That's how I felt about Van Persie. I couldn't believe it when he went to Man United. I couldn't believe we sold him to one of our rivals. It done me. He scored 30 goals in that season. His last season for the club, he scored 30 goals in that season. So, but I digress. Sorry, Jez, I thought we had to mention Robin Van Persie. Great player, skillful. And we talk about striker ball. He could hit a ball. So
I remember that. I was at Stamford Bridge that day when we bashed them up 5-1, 5-2, whatever it was.
Yeah,
you got an hat-trick in it. You got an hat-trick.
Great game. Andy, you haven't upset me, mate. I don't know what you said, but no, you haven't upset me. That is for sure.
No, so right, out of all the strikers, who would I sign today? Did you say, Jez? Sorry, mate. What was your original question?
I was going to say, out of all the strikers we've talked about, and we've missed a few. Of course, we're going to miss a few.
Yeah.
But who would you say is the best that you would sign today?
Oh, well, I mean, it's tough because, Bergkamp even had a role up front, didn't he? And he was just exceptional, wasn't he?
I think he was more of a midfielder.
He was, yeah. Ian Wright, I loved Ian Wright. I did love Wrighty. I like his attitude. I like his work rate, but you can't look past Thierry Henry, can you? You'd be mad to, wouldn't you? Thierry Henry was magnificent, absolute magnificent.
If I was to look in the modern game, I'm gonna come to Kenny in a minute. If I look at the modern game, for me, with its fast pace as it is,
Henri.
it's got to be Henri.
Yeah.
But for me, I know this is stupid comment, but I'm going to say it anyway. As a young kid, the best striker I ever saw at Arsenal when I first saw them, 1968,
Radders.
John Radford.
Yeah.
I know
Now,
he wouldn't fit the modern game. I know that. I get it.
No.
But what he did for Arsenal when we won our first double, when we won our first European trophy.
Yeah, I'll get that, mate.
That's for me. But
right. All I can say, Jez, so if we're talking modern day, who would I sign out? Thierry Henry. But my other striker, who I would have in the club, would have to be Alan Smith. Would have to be Smudger.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Because of, the European glory, the goal he scored, Palmer, and he done it then at Anfield. He led the line practically on his own most of the game. So, yeah, Henri and Alan Smith, closely followed by Ian Wright. But I did like Frank Stapleton, and I must throw that in there.
The other reason I say John Radford, we all remember the old books you used to get as kids, and you get the sticker cards.
Yeah.
The very, very first player I pulled out of my first little packet was John Radford.
Wow.
1970-71. Anyway, that's beside the point. Kenny, same question to you. If you could sign a player, striker, from what we've talked about today, right, who would it be?
I'd be Thierry, because Thierry is not the fact that the goals he scored, the amount of goals he scored, and the type of goals he scored. He was a football revolutionary. He changed the way strikers play.
Oh, 100%.
You think about it. He killed the centre forward, the old-fashioned centre forward, but he enabled players who weren't centre forwards to actually play in that position. Without Thierry's, like I said, transformation and his game at Arsenal, you probably wouldn't see Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi playing the way they do. He opened the door for that kind of new kind of revolutionary striker, where where you don't have to be playing when you're back to goal. You could just score goals from all angles of football pitch. You could either run from the length of the pitch, you could either score tap-ins or headers. But he changed the way a striker should play, and he's raised the standards. So for me, Thierry's the best we've ever had.
100%.
I agree with you.
Who would you have in years gone by, Kenny?
In years gone by, I have to go with I'll go with Alan Smith, because Alan Smith won me trophies. I have to go with the trophies. Yeah. Alan Smith was we cry out. Everyone says Arsenal won't win the title without a striker. Well, Alan Smith won the title in 89 and 91, 23 goals in 89, 22 goals in 91. How can you put Ian Wright above him when Ian Wright didn't bring me the league? Even though Ian Wright was probably a more naturally gifted footballer than him.
Yeah. No, he was great. He was great. So, Jez, all I can say, mate, on this is if anyone's been listening to this, or if anyone listens to it later on, you now make your own minds up after talking about these strikers. I was giving how many goals they've scored and stuff like that. Ask yourself a question. The reason why we ain't going to win anything at the moment is because we haven't got a striker. And this is when people say to me, you're negative and you're this and you're that, is because us three here, we've all grown up watching these great strikers. And I cannot get my head around this great football club, with all its history, has not got a striker. To me, it baffles me beyond anything. I don't care if we hadn't have signed anyone else in the summer. If we'd have just brought in a decent striker, that'd have been enough for me, because that's all we needed as far as I was concerned. But, you know.
It is, mate. You know, you said a great comment backstage before we went live. I am not, you said it. I'm going to go along with you. I'm not going to let this club wind me up this season. Because for me, the season's done. It's gone.
I'm not letting it ruin my. I'm not letting it ruin
the Champions League. Let's get it right. We ain't winning the Champions League. With that display last night, are you having a laugh?
Yeah.
And yet people are still giving it the big one. No, not happening. I don't believe, unless Liverpool were to absolutely fall apart, and I don't think they will.
No.
We'll win the Premier League. No. So this is another season of failure with this absolute arse-white manager. And if he had any honesty, any decency, at the end of this season, after another year of failure, he'd fuck off.
He'd walk, yeah.
But, Kenny, please, give me your view.
Well, that's exactly what I'm trying to say, is that you only have to, if you don't look at what we did with Alan Smith, and you don't want to go back 33 years, 34, 36 years. Well, why don't you just look at what's happening this season? Mohamed Salah is a main difference between Liverpool challenging this season and them not challenging. 21 goals by the end of January. And now you've got Erling Haaland, who scored 66 goals in 61 league appearances. They won the title twice. So just look at the most recent examples. Nothing's changed. You win with strikers. Rory Van Persie went to Man United, scored 30 goals. They won the league in 2013. So it's not rocket science. You have to. Doesn't matter whether you goals go all around the team, whether you break your record. Let's not forget, Man City scored 96 to our 91, and they won the league. It's not rocket science, is it?
No.
In terms of what's needed.
Another thing that's not rocket science as well, though, Kenny, is if you look at all the teams gone by, even look at the Arsenal teams that we've just been talking about and the strikers, there's one common thing that all these teams that have won titles have had. City, Man United, Blackburn Rovers, Leicester with Jamie Vardy. They've all had strikers. You 100%. Cannot. I remember, I think it was Alan Hansen said you can't win a league with kids. Well, that was proved wrong. But one thing that's not been proven wrong is you can't win a league without a striker. You need a top
class one as well. It can't be just a striker. It's got to be a top class one. But if you're a big team like Arsenal, you attract those players. Big players want to come to big clubs, and that's the thing. Or you've got a striker there already, and I think that's the problem with Arteta. Change the way you play, and you may be able to attract these players, because the way we play, he's part of the problem. We don't get the ball forward quickly enough in order to facilitate the striker and to facilitate the pace. You look how Newcastle play. They don't just play one way; they break it. They break the play up. They can play the short game, but if needs be, they play the ball over the top for Eze, and he goes boom, he runs into it.
Exactly.
So exactly, they get the best out of him. Both,
it was the same with Leicester with Vardy, wasn't it? When in doubt, hit it long, and he'd latch onto it.
There's nothing wrong with a long ball.
I think
nothing wrong with a long ball.
That's got to have the respect to actually attract the big players, and I don't believe Arteta's got it.
He can't have, because simple reason is that the player he wants isn't coming. He wants Sesko, but Sesko for some reason isn't on his way to the football club.
The thing is, right, guys, you made a good point there, Kenny, because if you was an up and coming striker now, and you was top of your game, say Gorka is now, because we didn't go and get the buyout clause for whatever reason, I don't know. But when he goes up for sale now, if he goes up for sale in the summer window, you're going to have about 5 or 6 clubs come in for him. So we are now going to be in a bidding war for this guy. So he's going to look at his options, and he's going to look at the way teams play, what suits his style of play, etc., etc. And you made a good point there, Kenny. The way we play, any up and coming striker is not going to want to come to our club because it ain't going to suit the way they play.
Look what he did to Aubameyang. He killed Aubameyang. His tactics killed Aubameyang. It wasn't just like the fact they fell out. His tactics, the way we were playing, that was not conducive to get the best out of Aubameyang. Aubameyang's actually not a centre forward. Aubameyang plays just off the shoulder of the right back, comes centre half, and he likes to make his runs from the left, and then he likes to make the surprise runs from any other position in the box. But his starting position has always been on that left hand side on the shoulder, where he has that imaginary space between the right back and a centre half, the right side of centre half. That's his position. That was always his position in every club he's played at before he came to Arsenal.
Yeah.
Hey, I can wrap it up. DJ, legend, my friend, as always. Thank you for joining.
Oh, Jez, it's been wonderful. I mean, I really enjoy these history channels. This history, this is about our 5th one now. Is it 5th, 6th?
Yeah, 6th.
It's just brilliant. And as I said to you before, it's good to go back over the history and look at these players and managers and stuff like that, because it's been in my family for generations. And remembering some of these players that my granddad used to tell me about, the Cliff Bastons and the Drakes and all of that, and speaking about it even of today, it's in honour of them as well. So without your channel, Jez, we wouldn't get this opportunity. So I'd like to thank you once again. So subscribe and smash them, because that's what you need to do, guys. And Kenny, honestly, mate, it's been a pleasure to work with you again. Fantastic.
DJB, I'm sorry.
That my sister knows your Linda.
Yeah, knows my auntie. That's incredible, isn't it?
Avenel Road, weirdo. That's weird, man.
That's incredible.
Hey, look, North London's a small place, but you know what? Jez, you don't mind me saying so. I know you're feeling a bit down, when people weren't listening to, you felt people weren't taking interest in all the shows you're doing. Well, you've got 2 people, me and DJB, who can help you there. You don't have to do it. We can help you with all the memories because we lived it as well. So, really and truly, the audience is there. For these.
What my philosophy now is this, right? Yeah, it is annoying, but I just enjoy talking to you 2 guys.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Because
there's not many people that do.
The same age, roughly, right? There are people coming and watch it and enjoy it and listen and comment, and that's brilliant. That's all I want.
Fantastic.
I'm not going to get 2,000 views, all that. I don't care, because what my objective is to put it out there. If people want to listen and learn, young people, great, love it. I don't care anymore. I'm fed up with it, because at the end of the day, it is what it is.
All I can say, Jez, I would say that we, over the sort of 5-6 weeks that we've been doing this now, touching on the great teams and comparing the teams, comparing the managers. We're doing strikers. Our next one, I think, is going to be great midfielders of the club.
Yeah.
I'd like to think now that the people that do watch look forward to actually look forward to the show every week because from what I've seen, we're getting a regular, clientele, which is fantastic.
There's a hardcore audience now that I've recognised people in the chat, and they were there for like the comparisons between George Graham's 91 side and the Invincibles, and obviously their comparisons for our championship winning chart, and they were they were there for the same experience when we were going through the great managers we had. And a lot of these guys I've noticed were around when Terry Neal was a manager. They were around when Terry Neal was a manager. So they lived it as well.
Yeah, can I just say as well, I've noticed that the audience that we've been getting in the chat and their participation with the questions they're coming up with and their comments is appreciated because, we look at them and it's like a nice community. So big up to everyone as well. Big up to everyone as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I've had people say to me, Jez, you need to stream more. Well, I'm only going to stream if I've got something to talk about.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to sit here, right, and rinse and repeat what everybody else is doing. That's not me.
No. So
if I only do 1, 2 streams a week, that's what I'll do. I'm not.
Yeah.
Look, I've tried to explain. I'm not in this to make a life out of it.
No.
Probably, I'm 64 in May, right? So in probably 2 years' time, I'll knock it on the head because I'm going to think I don't want to do this no more. Yeah.
No.
SG's got a question.
You've got to do the history. You've got to do this.
SG's got a question. He wants to know if I can beat you in an aerial chill.
Well, I think, Kenny, YouTube is pretty much a much younger. I get it.
He wants to know if I can beat Jez in the aerial chill.
Yeah. He wants to know if you can beat in it. I don't know. I reckon Jez was a nasty defender. I reckon he give it plenty of that. And
I think so as well.
I bet you was a pincher, weren't you, Jez? Come on, admit it.
I think I can imagine it in a cold
pincher.
Can you imagine the corners routine in a cold late January where hands and toes are icy and he'll come stepping out toes. Toes. I won't be able to get away from him.
I can imagine Jez when you're marking him getting hold of you and pinching you or something. Do you know what I mean? Just to rattle, nasty.
The size of Kenny, right?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You just all you've got to do is stamp on my toes, and I'll be on the floor, right? I'll you run the back.
That's how it would be. Anyway,
big up, guys! It's been an absolute. I love doing these, so I'll look forward to the next one.
I've got to tell you something off camera. Stay before you go.
Yeah. All right, mate.
Yeah, pleasure.
No, big up, guys, and big up to everyone. Stay safe, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next history.
We will. Kenny Ken, shout out where we go. I know, DJ, you don't have socials, so I won't ask you that. But Kenny, where can we find you, my friend?
On Instagram at Kenny Ken 1972.
Legend. People, we're out of here. I don't know what's happened here tonight. Everything's gone tits up on the end stuff.
Yeah, even I lost my camera at one point. I do apologise, everyone.
We're out of here. Take care, everyone. See you later.
Take care, guys.